Hi, you're on the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. Are we seeing a resurgence of witchcraft in our country? I ran across a piece in Time.com, and it's reporting that a self-proclaimed feminist witch has asserted, quote, the fact that the resurgence of feminism and the popularity of the witch are ascending at the same time is not a coincidence, that the two are reflections of each other. Now, the authoress here is a woman by the name of Pam Grossman, and she explains today more women than ever are choosing the way of the witch, whether literally or symbolically. They're floating down catwalks and sidewalks in gauzy black clothing and adorning themselves with Pinterest-worthy pentagrams and crystals. They're filling up movie theaters to watch witchy films and gathering in back rooms and backyards to do rituals, to consult with tarot cards, and to set life-altering intentions. They're marching in the streets with something called the Hex Patriarchy, casting spells, trying to constrain the commander-in-chief. Where is all this happening? When does it have you seen any of this in your life? Year after year, articles like this keep popping up proclaiming it's the season of the witch. This article is published by Michael Brown of AskDrBrown.org. Michael Brown is, how do I word this? He presents himself as a Christian, as a whole ministry. And he says it is the thesis of his new book, a book entitled Jezebel's War with America, a book that's not on the market yet. What he's asserting is the direct and real spiritual connection between the rise of radical feminism, the explosion of pornography, the attack on masculinity, the militant abortion movement, and the resurgence of witchcraft. And he suggests that the ascendancy of Donald Trump to the office of president, for better or for worse, has served to highlight all these different but related streams. It's all Trump's fault. A headline on October 4th of last year announced the U.S. witch population has seen an astronomical rise, end of quote. A few weeks later, another headline proclaimed the fastest growing religion in America is witchcraft. Is it any surprise that side by side with radical feminism, that witchcraft would be on the rise in America? I don't think that's a coincidence. Dr. Brown suggests that Grossman is absolutely right, that these are two sides of the same coin. And he cites another book, a book entitled Radical Feminism, Feminist Activism and Movement, written by Finn Mackay, who traces all of this back to the Cold War in Western Germany. He says in the midst of the Cold War, in a divided country, feminists were about to start a global movement that for decades to come would unite women in symbolic protest against male violence against women. But shortly before midnight on April 30th, 1977, small groups of women began gathering in the center of towns and cities across West Germany, places like Bochum, Frankfurt, Cologne, and one I can't pronounce. They were dressed in witches, carried flaming torches, and had painted women's symbols on their faces. The date of their synchronized protest was no accident. They were assembling on that night to mark what is still known across Germany as Walpurgis Night, a superstitious tradition to mark the coming of May, a time when witches and tricksters are believed to roam. What these people see is a kind of fifth column working just out of sight. They're playing off the issues all rational human beings support: the opposition to male violence against women, the decrying of honor killings, acid attacks, and the overall oppression of women in society, along with the reduction of women to sex objects or treating them as second-class citizens. But these men see a radical feminism that despises males, that deplores the nuclear family, that demeans motherhood, that views babies as unwanted intrusions and merely a clump of cells as long as it's in the womb. A movement that holds all men guilty for whatever it is. As expressed by the radical feminist Robin Morgan, quote, "I feel that man-hating is an honorable and viable political act, that the oppressed have a right to class hatred against the class that is oppressing them." Or in the words of Andrea Dworkin, marriage as an institution developed from rape as a practice. Some of us thought God dreamed it up. Apparently not. They suggest that this is the spirit of radical feminism, the man-hating spirit, the spirit of Jezebel, intimately connected to the spirit of witchcraft. As expressed by Lily Borana in the Huffington Post last December, quote, "The modern witch, as we would recognize her today, is a mid-20th century phenomenon, as laid out in a lovely Boston Review piece by journalist Jesse Kindig, who writes in their 1968 manifesto, the women's liberation activists from WITCH, Women's International Terrorist Conspiracy from Hell, proposed that, quote, "A witch lives and laughs in every woman. She is the free part of us." End of quote. It is this history from 1486 on that explains today's global feminist protest chant, which reads, "We are the granddaughters of all the witches you could not burn." Apparently Jezebel is back with a vengeance. And our society, having abandoned objective morality and anything traditional, regardless of where it might have come from, even if it came from the Word of God, they have declared all of this the enemy. Where do these things take you? Some of you who are a lot younger than I am are going to find out. I, on the other hand, well, I'm probably going to live a little longer than I thought since I just had bypass surgery. I'm not going to be around much longer. And for that, I'm grateful.